Hey Nuggets! So, since I posted my last video with America's Cliff Tag, some of you have been wondering about books that I didn't mention, and so what I wanted to do, because I'm a giant book nerd, is I wanted to do my top 13 favorite books of 2013. I don't actually own all the books that are going to be on this list because I don't buy a lot of books because I don't have any money. So the books aren't in any kind of order, and they're also not necessarily books that came out in 2013, but books that I read in 2013. So let's begin. The first one, it's one of my favorite series that I've ever read, not just this year, is this series by Marie Lu. The first one is Legend, the second one is Prodigy. This is the third one. It's one of my all-time favorite series. So basically what it's about is there's this kind of postmodern, post-apocalyptic society where most of the east coast of the United States has been, like, obliterated, and then the western side of the United States has built themselves up into this kind of like a military state, and it's really terrifying, but it's really good. Main characters are June and Day. Both of them are extremely intelligent and strong characters, and they're just, oh, they're so good! They're so good! Oh, I love this series so much. Oh, here, the first two on the back. That's what they look like. That's the first one, and that's the second one. And you should go read them. And they're not very big. They're pretty easy to read. Everyone needs to read this series. They're gorgeous and I love them. Next book that I read that I thoroughly enjoyed is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This book I had not heard of until I saw it in like a book thrift store, and it was only like $3, and it's hardcover, and it looked really intriguing, so I bought it, and then I read it, and then I loved it. It's about this boy who, his family has a big secret, and he meets this girl, and they meet lots of other peculiar children, and there's time travel, and spooky monsters. It's so cool! And so many things happen in just this little teeny book. This book is also, it's gorgeous. Look at the inside. The chapters have these like kind of things. And also, from what I understand, the author found a bunch of creepy, spooky black and white pictures, and then he wrote a story just kind of connecting all of them, and it's really cool. And so in the book, he actually has some of those pictures, and I believe the sequel is coming out next year. It's called Hollow City, so I'm probably gonna be reading that one because I love this one a lot. The next book that I read that I really enjoyed, my friend actually gave it to me for Christmas because she saw it on my to-read shelf on Goodreads because she's a lovely person, and it is Shug by Jenny Hahn. Yeah, Jenny Hahn. I saw this all over the Goodreads threads, so I really wanted to pick it up, and I added it to my Goodreads to read list, and then my friend saw my Goodreads to read list, and she had it, so she gave it to me. This is actually an ARC, an advanced reader's copy, so it's not actually the finished one, but it's really, really cute. It's about this girl, and she has a best friend that she hangs out with a lot, she and him, and then things kind of start to change between boys and girls. It's just, oh, it's so cute! Oh my goodness. I read this in like an hour, 2 hours. It was super easy to read, but it was really cute. So if you have a couple hours and you see this anywhere, I suggest picking it up and reading it because you will not regret it. Next one that I read that I really liked, I've actually read this book I think 3 times now, and that is The Selection by Kiera Cass. Quick note about this book. This does not look like the kind of book that I would usually read, but this book is actually awesome. It's set in a super stratified society with 8 castes, and what happens is that the royal family, the first caste, they hold this giant selection, like kind of like this lottery, where all the girls in the kingdom, no matter what caste they're in, can put their name into this big lottery. 35 girls are going to be picked, and they all get sent to the castle, and then they have this big like bachelor kind of thing, and then the prince picks a girl, and then they get married and live happily ever after. Haha, no, funny. No, this book is freaking intense. It's America, and she's smart and intelligent and strong, and she makes mistakes, but then she tries to fix them. But my favorite thing about this book is the backstory that we kind of don't get to know, because it's from America's perspective and she doesn't get to know, but there are these like rebels and so we only get a few glimpses, but that's the most interesting part of this book for me, is the rebels, and I really hope we get to see more of it. This is the first one, the second one is the Elite, which I've also read, and then the third one, called The One, is coming out this year, and I'm really excited. It's easy to read, again, super short, awesome book, I loved it very much. Next, the lighting would change, there we go. Next, I have a book series that quickly became one of my all-time favorite series, and that is the Heroes of Olympus series by Riordan, and oh my gosh, it's so good! My friend had the first 3, and so he gave them all to me one time, and I read them all in, I think, 4 days, and they're all this big, so that just shows how much I loved this series. Oh my goodness! It's an extension of the Percy Jackson series, and there are new characters that are all introduced, and there's a whole nother camp that's introduced with more demigods, and they have their own little, like, societal dynamic, and of course we have all the old characters like Percy and Annabeth. Oh, I love them! So there are 4 books, and the 5th and final book is coming out next year. If you haven't read the series, just read it. Next book on my favorite books of 2013, we have Allegiant by Veronica Roth. Allegiant is the 3rd book in the Divergent series. Lots of frustration in this stupid book. I have a few complaints about this book. I'll be doing a review of it on Muggle Books, and I'll put a link to it down in the thingamajig. Lots of... I don't even know what else to say about this book. Yeah, yay! Legion! Dude. The next book that I read this year that I really liked is a classic book, and it's not, again, not a typical thing that I would read, and it is backwards. It is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Kesey. I actually read this for school. I had to read it over the summer, but I really liked it. It's about a group of men who are all in an insane asylum, and then another man comes, and he is different, and he kind of challenges, like, this authoritarian nurse who kind of runs everything, and it's told from the perspective of a Native American who's in there, and he has hallucinations, which is kind of freaky, but really cool. So you're kind of not sure exactly what's real, what he's imagining. There's a bunch of awesome themes and symbolism, and I really liked analyzing this book, and I got an A on my essay, so bam. So if you have like 4 days where you just want to read a classic book that everyone talks about, I suggest this one. The next books on my list I don't actually own, so we're just gonna zip through them. Probably not very quickly, actually. So the first book that I really enjoyed reading in 2013 is The Fifth Wave by Yancy. And this book is intense. Side note, there's some swearing in this book, so if you don't like swearing, like me, I didn't like the swearing. But that's just me. So if you don't like swearing, just know that there's swearing in this book. Yeah, okay. Again, it's kind of set in the future, and there have been a bunch of waves of like destruction, like earthquakes and tsunamis and plague, and they've kind of wiped out civilization. And all these waves have been caused by like outside forces, so they don't really know who's doing what and what's going on and why they're doing it. Our main character, Cassie, is surviving on her own in this creepy apocalyptic world, and she's kick butt and awesome and smart and really strong, and she's just really freaking cool. Oh, it's told in a bunch of different perspectives, so you get a much broader vision of like the whole world and what everyone's doing and the different things that are going on and what happens. The sequel to this book, which does not have a cover yet, is coming out next year, and it better, because I need to know if character who will not be named is still freaking alive or if he died. I don't think he died, but he could have, so that sucks. So the next book I want to talk about is one that I just read, I think, last week. It's called Angelfall by Susan E. Basically what happens is there's this girl named Peregrine, and there's her little sister who's in a wheelchair, and her mom. So basically they are set in this world where literal destroying angels have come down and wreaked havoc across the world. So the story starts when our heroine, Peregrine, meets one of these angels. and a whole bunch of stuff happens. What I really liked about this book is that we kept like navigating through the world. We weren't just like stuck in a little corner of it, but we could go see various aspects of this world. There's Penryn, and then there's the angel that she meets, Ralphie. So there's Penryn and Ralphie, and then this rebel force, but there are also these freaky mutants, and then there are all the angels, and they all have different plans, and it's really freaky and really, really intriguing. It's not a very big book, it's easy to read. I read it in a day and a half, I think. Okay. Cinder by Marissa Meyer is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles. These books are just really cool. They're so creative. So it's a retelling of fairy tales, except that it's set in the super futuristic world, and there are cyborgs and robots and aliens, and there's like this giant plague that everyone's freaked out about. There's this queen from the moon, and she basically wants to destroy Earth. A whole bunch of political dynamics and social dynamics and character dynamics that all fit together really well, and I really loved it. Check it out if you like sci-fi. Even if you don't like sci-fi, you should give it a chance because it's really good, and you may end up liking it even though you think you don't. Ooh, the next books I read back in June, I think. And it's called The Iron Butterfly by Chandra Hahn. It's free on iBooks, and it's kind of more of like a middle grade, kind of like spanning YA and middle grade book. So it's really easy to read. It's not very long. So there's this creepy dark society of scientist kind of people who are taking children and keeping them in a giant underground dungeon and then testing them with different kinds of basically poison, like serum, and they're testing their level of immunity to the serum. So our main character is one of the girls who got kidnapped by this creepy scientist, except then she escapes and runs away and finds other people, and then they go to this big academy for people with special powers until it's discovered she has a secret. Wow, totally wasn't expecting that. And she's smart, and she's sassy, and total plot twist at the end of the book. Was not expecting that, like the last 10 pages. They're really easy to read. I've reread it, I think 3 times. You should read it and then come talk to me because I want to talk to people about it because no one knows about it. And they should. I messed up my hair. The next book I want to talk about is called This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. Oh my goodness, it's just sugar. It's just pure sugar and fluff and sweet. It's so cute. It's about a girl and a boy. Ooh. They meet through online messaging. He accidentally emails her instead of the person he meant to email, and then they start this nice little like banter, and turns out they really like each other. So he is a movie star actor man, and she works at an ice cream shop in a little town in, I think, Maine. And he convinces his producer people to go up to Maine to start filming, but really he just wants to meet this girl he's been messaging. It made me feel all fluffy inside. So it's just really cute. So you should read it if you want to read something cute. Next book, which could not be on this list, is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. Basically what it's about is this girl who has cancer, and you think, oh, a cancer book, great. No, you're wrong. This book is awesome. It's about this girl named Hazel, who has cancer, and she's not feeling super great about that. And then she goes to support group, and she meets this boy named Augustus Waters, and all of you watching, your hearts just fluttered. I admit it, Augustus Waters. They're just really intelligent and smart and funny and witty and really cool. And then John Green just has to, stick a knife in your heart. This stupid book. So that was it. That is my top 13 books of 2013. Yay! We did it! I did it. We did it together. If you haven't read any of the books that I mentioned, which you probably have not read some of them. I'll put the titles to them all down in the description. Almost every single one I have a review for down on my book blog. And also, if you have any recommendations for books that I should read and review on my blog, then please, 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 please leave a comment or go to my Tumblr, my book blog, or my actual Tumblr and tell me so that I can read it and then we can share the love between us. Okay.